everything going on in the news cycle this week. The pandemic continues. The death toll in the United States is well over 100,000 due to COVID-19. The economy is struggling. And of course, there is some major civil unrest going on. And so with all of that, I was really challenged to think about, what am I going to say first, right? Like, what am I going to write first? What am I going to talk about first? Now, of course, we're going to get to the conclusion of Jonathan Livingston Seagull today. Yes, we're definitely going to do that. But I had to really just center myself and pray and meditate on, what is first? What's the first thing? And so here it is. This is what I was guided to write. Now, if you're not familiar with these three names, I would like to take just a few minutes to lay some groundwork for my talk with you today. Because these three precious souls, all three of these precious souls, have been killed in just the last several months. Now, their stories are making headlines for very good reasons. And, you know, there are a couple of things that I want you to know that they share in common. Two things that they share in common. All three were unarmed and they were black. George Floyd was killed just this past Monday in broad daylight by an officer in Minneapolis who already had him handcuffed, already had him in custody, but chose to pin him down and press his knee on his neck. Some report 8 seconds, some report 9. And Mr. Floyd died. Even though this man begged for his life and said, "I can't breathe," as he grasped for air. Now, there were also 3 other officers who participated in this homicide as accomplices. However, only one of the officers has been arrested and charged with murder. The video of Mr. Floyd's execution is horrifying. In February, Ahmaud Arbery was killed in broad daylight while jogging in a Brunswick, Georgia neighborhood by a father and son team who hunted this young man down. He was 25, hunted this young man down because they were convinced that he was a neighborhood robber. Incidentally, the father is a retired law enforcement officer. Now, they have both since been arrested and charged with murder. The video of Ahmaud's killing is gut-wrenching. Now, by the way, When I was in my 20s, I drove through the small town of Brunswick, Georgia, in my Toyota Celica, and I had a flat tire. Actually, to my knowledge, it's the only flat tire I've ever had. And so, of course, admittedly, I was a little bit nervous about being a single white female with a flat tire in the middle of nowhere. But before I knew it, an older gentleman showed up who actually owned an auto store, of all things. And not only did he fix my tire, my flat tire, but he didn't charge me a penny. Now, it should be noted, however, that I never once thought during that day that I was a complete stranger in the small town of Brunswick, Georgia, that I was going to be chased by two vigilantes in a pickup truck and be shot. Never crossed my mind. Something, no doubt, that the color of my skin afforded me. So that brings me to Breonna Taylor. Now, in March, Breonna, a beautiful young woman, I think also about 25, with a very bright future, was shot 8 times by police when they entered her Louisville, Kentucky home while she was sleeping. They entered on a no-knock warrant. They were not in uniforms. There were no marked cars. And unfortunately, they were also not wearing body cams, so there's no video to show this tragedy and the mistake that they made by entering her home in the first place. And at this time, none of the officers have been arrested or charged. And so another thing that these wrongful deaths have in common with each other is public outcry, public outrage over them. And the public outrage this past week has had a seismic shift because of how these incidents have been handled, particularly initially. And now this public outrage has manifested itself in the form of protests and in some cities riots all over our country, in pockets all over our country, large cities and small cities. And so, of course, there are many, many, many other examples, too many to mention here. Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, anyway. There are many, many, many other examples, but right now the focus is on these 3 deaths, and that is what is driving feelings of anger and resentment and fear. And please make no mistake, the feelings of anger, resentment, and fear that so many people are feeling right now is a cry for healing, a spiritual healing. And so let's be very clear with one another here that this isn't something that happened just this week or even over these last several months. This is something that has been a long time coming. Now, if you are wondering, why I'm taking the time to focus on this today, it's because it is the only real homily that I have in my heart to speak about today. Why? Because so many of my ministerial colleagues, especially black pastors and ministers, over this past week, and they have all been asking, and rightly, one of the most important questions, and that question is this: as a church leader, what are you saying to your congregation about racism, especially if you are white? This is why Reverend Dr. Bernice King the youngest daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., who also runs the King Center in Atlanta. This is why she posted on social media, white people have to start talking to white people about not doing this to black people. And she's asking this because in most, if not all of these kinds of cases, the oppressors are white. And so the first thing that I want to offer here in this message is that I am by no means an expert on racism or on race in America. And in fact, right now, I feel like whatever I thought I knew does not even compare to what I now know is mine to educate myself about. In other words, I'm willing to be awkward about this. I am willing to learn, and I am willing to take on the beginner's mind, that childlike wonder that our Buddhist friends talk about. I'm willing. And so here it is in a nutshell, so that you will know exactly where I stand as your senior minister at Unity of Arlington. Racism is not acceptable, and I will not be silent because I'm an ally, and I want to learn how to be a better ally. And so what does that look like? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. What does that look like, Reverend? Well, it means that I'm going to be talking a lot more about racism and social bias. And it means that I'm going to be looking for ways that we, as a spiritual community, and now a virtual spiritual community, how wonderful, this beloved community that we are building together, it means that I'm going to be looking for ways that we can be in dialogue together about this. And so I am hoping, and it is my prayer, that we will join together on this mission, because we must do this together. We must do this together. I became a Unity minister because I believe with all that I am that we are all made of sacred worth, and that we are all one with God, that we are one with each other, and that we are here to embrace each individual as an expression of God. I mean, you do know that the soul has no gender, no race, and no color, right? I mean, the soul has no gender and no race and no color. And so one of the things that you can do right now as an ally is to be willing in this moment, right here, right now, with cities on fire, to be willing to look at the world differently. The astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, I mean, we love him, right? He says one of the greatest challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough about a subject to know that you are wrong. Let me say that again. Neil deGrasse Tyson says one of the greatest challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you are right, but not knowing enough about the subject to know that you are wrong. Boo. It happens. And this is why, this is exactly why we are all susceptible to bias, because evidently we do not know enough about racism to know when we're wrong. Evidently, we do not know enough about racism to listen, to really listen to our black brothers and sisters. We clearly do not know enough about racism to eradicate it. Yet, we must be hopeful and optimistic because we are the ones. You were born for such a time as this right now. And so if in the sanctuary of your own mind right now, you're thinking something, along these lines, well, I am so glad she's not talking about me. I mean, I am not a racist because blah, 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 fill in the blank. Now, I could fill in the blank for you, but I will not. I'm going to let you fill in your own blank. I'm just going to say that if your inner dialogue right now is about how you're not a racist, then I have a very special invitation for you to get a lot less comfortable about the self-perceived evidence that you have about why you're not a racist. And so, if you want to grow spiritually, you have to be willing to have some good old-fashioned self-reflection and self-introspection. Now listen, I get it, okay? I was born in 1960 in the still very much segregated South, right? I mean, I grew up in Atlanta. And I lived there for the first 3 decades of my life. And so I get it, that this can be uncomfortable and weird. But the time has come, my dear ones. The time has come. Today is the day for us to be allies and to be better allies to all of our brothers and sisters of color. No matter whether they're black, brown, tan, color of the rainbow, no matter the color. This is ours to do. And please do not for 1 minute think that this isn't divine order or that this isn't your divine appointment in the midst of a global pandemic. It is precisely because of where we are right now. This is your divine appointment. This is our divine appointment. And so let's not waste it. Let's call it out. Let's do our work. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Amen. This is a great opportunity for healing for everyone. Now, if you've been in Unity for a minute, you know that one of our themes is that we are here to create a world that works for everyone. And so I also invite you to not overlook that word work, because we got some work to do. We got some work to do together. And so, okay, I'm going to shift gears here now. Because, I have been saying over these last weeks that we've been with Jonathan and this wonderful little gem by Richard Bach, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I've been saying over these last couple of weeks that you got to know yourself to grow yourself. Let's say that together. You got to know yourself to grow yourself. And so when we last left off, with our Jonathan, he had made this bold decision to go back to his original flock of seagulls to see if he could help some other outcasts in a similar way that he had been helped by his mentor, Chang. In other words, he was paying it forward. Not only about flight school and teaching other outcasts how to fly, but by showing love and kindness and forgiveness. You know, at its core, Jonathan Livingston Seagull is a very simple fable with a profound message that when we really start to understand our value and our worth as divine beings, we can be so much more than the ideas that so many of us were originally given before we could understand that we are divine beings. In other words, when we have an ally, when someone champions us, right? And so this is why this theme ties so beautifully to exactly what I've been sharing with you today, because there's a scene near the end of the story where the scene culminates in about 4,000 seagulls who form a mob, and they get all caught up in some emotional hysteria with a lot of anger and resentment and fear. And I mean, this was a very dangerous situation. Sound familiar? But Jonathan had been teaching his star student Fletcher that the only true law is the one that leads to freedom. And so they exercise their freedom and they leave. But Fletcher is absolutely amazed by Jonathan's self-control, and so he says to him, I don't know how you can manage to love a mob of birds that has just tried to kill you. And Jonathan says, oh, Fletch, you don't love that. You don't love hatred and evil. You have to practice and see the real goal, the good that's in every one of them, and help them see it in themselves. That's what I mean by love. And actually, it's kind of fun when you get the knack of it. Oh, Jonathan. Now, I have to hit the pause button here for just a minute, because this reminds me of one of Martin Luther King Jr.'s greatest teachings, at least for me anyway. He said, I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. And of course, our teacher and way shower Jesus said it this way in the Gospel of John, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. Now, I don't know about you, but this is abundantly clear, isn't it? I mean, is there anything that we don't understand about love one another? But wait, there's more, because Jesus goes on to say, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. And so what does that mean? That means that's a clue. How we love each other, how we show up for each other, how we lift each other up, how we are an ally for those that are seemingly different than us. And so now is the time. Today is the day for us to love one another, to be an ally, and to be a better ally to all of our brothers and sisters of color in our beloved community. In other words, and I want to say thank you to Jonathan Livingston Seagull for this inspiration. You know, we got to wake the flock up. And so, with that, I want to leave you with these beautiful and powerful words from a very short piece that was written by L.R. Nost. So, come on in. I want you to make sure to hear every word. Get up off your knees. Come out of your churches, your mosques, your temples. God can hear your prayers for peace, justice, and hope in this world just fine while you're out creating peace, working for injustice, and giving hope to the world. When are we finally going to realize that humanity is the solution to inhumanity? When will we finally understand that we are all drops in the same ocean, hurting together, healing together, hoping together? Don't just pray for hands to heal the hurting. Pray with hands that are healing the hurting. Don't just pray for arms to help the helpless. Pray with arms that are helping the helpless. Don't just pray for feet to respond to need. Pray on feet that are responding to need. Don't just pray for someone to do something. Be someone who does do something. Don't just pray for answers. Be the answer. And so that is your heart work this week. Be the answer. And so ends our message for today. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.